What? I have a question for myself. This has occurred recently. And yeah, I wanted to like open that up here because what exactly what do I do? What do we do? What does anyone do after a somatic release to find more regulation, to ground into the release? What does it bring up? What does it mean for what you're moving through, for your being, like your environment and things like that? I've asked myself this and I was just like, wait, is there like a thing, like a process with how, like, it's just, yeah, what just came to me was like, it's like the process of getting myself grounded enough to somatic release. It's like kind of that same process, moving myself out of the somatic release, that like care and support for myself. And I've been noticing that recently, and I've been making sure that I'm doing that and being more intentional with it, because before it was kind of random. And I noticed because after my somatic releases, which I've mentioned before, I'll sometimes feel a lot of energy, and then it's really just for me to ground into, for me to regulate it, to like digest it, and it's like it's a metabolization that is occurring within the being, within the core, right, in our lower core. Interesting. So what I do is I look to like nature elemental things, so essential oils and herbs that's similar to calm. They're called nervine herbs, and those are herbs in like a few categories, but essentially they're just calming, regulating, restorative. So think of like lemon balm, chamomile. Those are popular ones. Lavender, for example. Vetiver, my baby. For example. And okay. Or submerging your body in water, regardless of your element. I'm a Pisces, so I am obsessed with submerging in water and being in water. But just because our bodies are of water, like, in water inherently, it's just a beautiful grounding, cleansing. But if it's like earth or fire, you know, whatever your element is, depending on what you're moving through, if it's like liquids inside of your body or orienting to your environment, is very, 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 very important. I'm just learning this again. More like, this is after the somatic release, so it's like being very intentional with it, because I was not before. Holding on to this core part of your body, holding on to the bottom part of us, like I grasp onto my being, and I'm like, I'm right here talking to my body. Extremely intelligent, the body. So we just need to nurture it in that way, and it can bring us back into regulation. It just takes time. I'm learning, and I'm sharing as I'm learning more and doing more. So yeah, putting in that practice and that work within myself as best as I can. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, a little bit like, wait, hold on. Like, leaving the environment if I don't like it for in that moment, you know, things like that. It's a few little things that I do to try to, after the somatic release, to just self soothe, not to avoid, but to ground more into the body, so the emotions can just disperse. Diaphragmatic breathing, deep, slow belly breathing. Like, for example, last night my body was going, like, after in bed when I was like trying to fall asleep, I just grounded into diaphragmatic slow breathing, and like all my subtles calmed, and I just like stretched my body and stretched and did the breathing as well. Don't stiff stretch and all that, because if you're not breathing when you're moving your body, then you're not, it's kind of like an invalid thing. It doesn't work. And it's just like, oh wait, just slowly be present and practice that after the somatic releases, and it'll help. It's help. Okay, so I am adding in another clip because, as far as my experiences, especially recently, because I've been focusing on somatic releasing, right, but what I mean, what I'm, I don't want to say this, like, after a somatic release, I wasn't, which essentially is like movement through the underworld, okay? You're kind of just like, oh shit, you know, dysregulated, or what are you doing, and how am I doing this, and like, and I didn't notice that or realize that until I did a little short video clip on my profile and about presence is a practice. And when I say I have a lot of energy, I was saying that in the earlier clip too, that I wanted to add that, like, that was dysregulation a bit, or me trying to ground it and things like that, which I talked about. But now it's like, so what happened just recently, I had a lot go on and within me, and then I somatic released, and I was feeling a lot still, and I was like, what is going on? Like, what am I? And I'm like, I'm constricting, and I'm still learning these processes. So then I was like, oh wait, I just had this ginormous somatic release. What does my body need? And I was like, and I just immediately my oils, I always carry my essential oils with me everywhere that I have, and I put those on. I have a blend that I personally make, and it's a grounding, balancing, centering blend. And then there's another blend I have, and then I have another oil. Yeah, and I put the essential oils on. I just did breathing and stretching, and I did chanting too. I do yogic chanting specifically, and that just like, which in and of itself brings things into like connection and grounding. But I was like, oh shit, that was amazing. I was able to restore myself after the somatic release, which is what I've been trying to do. So I feel like it was very helpful, and that was like the first time I did it, and was very intentional about it, because my body, it was a lot, and I was not calm. And yeah, I wanted to share that because it's like thinking through ways to support through a somatic release. It depends on what you're moving through. If you're moving through fighting, like survival, sympathetic survival responses of the nervous system, of fighting, flighting, freezing, obviously one of all of those are coming up. Or you want, like for me, I was like a chronic freezer my entire existence. You know, the hyper performative, hyper functional, everything for everyone, like magnificent achiever, blah, 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 like whatever, all that shit. So it was just like a lot of that is stuck in there, my body. And and this makes sense, and I just realized this earlier. That's why I kind of a little bit don't really like certain nervine herbs, are like the calming herbs. There's like tonifying, sedating, calming, relaxing, things like that. Restoring, but the relaxing, calming herbs are nervine herbs, and the ones that are like really calming, sometimes I don't like, because of my survival response, the trauma and all whatever experiences and things, stress responses. So I'm realizing in those moments that that's why I like, and I feel like if you're moving out of states of that freeze, and I have a list, I literally was like just going through so much. I'm gonna create a specific piece, just specific to the different states of stress response for herbs, and just some herbs, a suggestive thing that only the herbs that I'm familiar with, or if the essence or the spirit of the herbs is like this one. And you know, even if I've never had that herb like individually, but I've had it in a blend, and like for example, that's what's coming through my intuition. So I wrote all that out, and I'm gonna make something about that, because it's important to know like the different states of the survival responses that are happening within you. Maybe not intellectually to know, but at least it's helpful to have elemental support. And that was what I was told that I needed through my somatic releases, because it's a lot, and just trying to build that safety within myself. And I moved my body. That's very important too. I notice I can get in states of constriction that don't even feel like constriction, you know, but just wanting to like lay or sit, and I'm like, up, move. Because when you're in the freeze response, you want to move out of that. I don't want to use the word collapse, because that's like shut down. That's like a whole different thing. But like, after you're constantly moving and going and doing, you want to just, but it's like to have the somatic release, and then to be able to not be hyper moving, but slowly moving my body, slowly doing rounding, like standing up and then doing like a big stretch circle, around my body, and stretching my body open and up, and expanding my being and stuff like that, and not constricting. And yeah, that's interesting. It's been helpful. Rubbing the body. I talked about like getting into nature, and all this stuff differs, all this stuff changes moment to moment, whenever. But it's helpful to know like what you should do. Talk to your body. I already said all this, but I just wanted to add in, like, when you're in survival, like fighting and flighting, the grounding, rooting, like roots, barks, those are really good for systems that have the fight flight response, overdrive, like a lot, or even a little, whatever. And not so much the sedating, nerve calming herbs. And then there's herbs with like, even this can come in plant tea form or essential oil. Though, the essential oil, the volatile oil, like when you put it on your touch points, those connect with the olfactory bulb, which I mentioned in my that poetry reading post. And like, it's just it's develops into the being quicker because of the connection with the skin, especially at the pulse points. And then it's absorbed, especially with the quality oils specifically, not toxic oils. That you gotta be careful with that shit. But so I noticed that the sun helps to regulate me, like warmth. Paying attention to, orienting to your environment immediately is what I've been doing a lot. Paying attention to my body cues. I'll be wanting to burp, and I'm like, I just want to burp. And like, I'll just move my body, especially the solar plexus. Moving through, like, learning and trying to grasp onto this victim consciousness, and like, whoa, what is this? And it's all in the solar plexus. So wanting to like move that area, and then I'll notice like belching, which I think is somatic release. And like, I have dealt with a lot of anger, frustration, stagnation in those ways, and it's not even mine. A lot of it's not mine. A lot of it is, I don't even try to put the mental thinking to it. I just be like, where am I in the body though? Like, what emotions come up, and I just want to get them out. So, and then ground after, regulate myself after. It's like you at the party, and then that's a somatic release, and then you go to the after party, and it's like calmer and chill, less people maybe, like, it's kind of like that. You want to treat it like, and ground yourself into a more, like, you're at the somatic release, and it's just like kind of can be a lot, at least for me. I only can speak to my experiences, but I've had so many different experiences. Sometimes it's just really little, regardless of what it is. Just making sure that after the fact, you're caring for yourself and your body to bring you back on into regulation, because you have to integrate what is somatic releasing. You have to so that can embody what is teaching us, and that's I'm now realizing that. So yeah, wow, I hope this was helpful, and I'm gonna post more about these specific things that I'm moving through. I don't know what they all mean. Some of the things I speak of are like in the moment, maybe I don't know, because I'm maybe just channeling it out and just getting it out intuitively. And then I'll come back with like, oh, I have more clarity on that, more grounding on that. So, yeah.